There we go. I think they should introduce an operating technology section to this whole practice plan.
So what we're going to be doing is taping it for Tina, so say hello to Tina.
Hi Tina.
I'll be talking to you later.
Okay. Now, when I do this session, it is normally the full session, so it goes for 1 hour, and it has come about from talking to the client about particular events, particular episodes that have happened. And Jerry and I have talked about that Jerry's going to represent a client of her own where anger has been one of the key emotions. So, welcome, Jerry. Remember from our last session we were talking a little bit about anger. Okay. Today what we want to do is I really want to delve into a little bit more about the anger episodes. So, over the last week, before you saw me, from when you saw me last to today, I want you to think about a situation where you had felt that anger again. So, can you think of a situation?
Yeah, I've told you before about the sergeant at work. She, obviously I'm a corporal, so she's rank above me, I answer to her. She's just continuing to get into my face. And there was an incident probably 3 days after I saw you last where even though I've told her time and time again I can't do lessons, I can't get up from people and talk. I haven't been able to do that since the assault, so I've tried to speak to her about it, and she keeps saying to me, well, you've got to do it eventually, you've got to do it eventually. And she actually put me in a position where I had no choice but to actually, she gave me no warning.
Yeah.
And I walked through the door on Friday morning and she said, here's the lesson, you're delivering it.
Okay.
And I was so angry. I was having visualizations of actually attacking her.
Okay. So this was 3 days after you saw me last. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about four days ago. Okay. Well, what I want to do today is I actually want to work through that situation. I want to work through the anger. And we're going to do it on the whiteboard and have a bit of a look at it. And what it's going to feel like is it's going to feel like that I'm really dragging this out, because it could have been the situation that happened like that. But the idea is that we're just going to sit with it. We're going to have a look at it and we're going to see what it looks like, because it can happen so fast and it can be really an uncomfortable experience. So as we're going through this, if at any stage you feel like that you're feeling some discomfort about this, you just say, hey girl, I just can't go any further, and we'll stop and we'll work through as to why you're not feeling that way. So bear with me, because what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the event. We're going to look at the thoughts. The emotions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the behaviours. Well, what the behaviours are is we're talking about those physiological reactions that you experience at that time. So let's talk about the event. I want you to describe to me in detail as to what was happening when this sergeant had come into you.
So it was first up in the morning.
Yeah.
We've just finished PT, start for the day, and she had pretty much just handed me a lesson plan and said, you're going to be delivering this to 12 of the 12-year soldiers.
Okay. So I had to deliver it to 12 of your soldiers. Okay. What was the lesson plan about?
It had to do with preparing the trucks for a field trip. We're going out bush in a couple of weeks, and it was about ensuring that the trucks are all packed properly and all the equipment was in place. So just that type of stuff.
Okay. Is this something that you normally do?
Yeah, look, I'm good at my job. Like, I know I know that stuff. I know I'm fine to deliver it. I'm fine to talk about it, but I can't talk in front of other people. I can't stand people looking at me. So I don't like being the centre of attention. So it's not that it's not that I felt incompetent that I couldn't talk about that topic.
Yeah.
It was the environment that she was trying to put me in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the event. Going to have a look at their thoughts and emotions. In your own experience, being 30 years of age, over your lifetime, what do you think comes first? Do you think the thoughts or the emotions come first? Pretend you're not a psych.
Sometimes it definitely feels like all I feel is just the rage.
Yeah.
So it does feel as though it feels as though I don't have any space to think because I'm so angry.
Okay.
My brain shuts down, and all that's happening is I'm just feeling.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do a bit of an experiment with you. What came first, the thought or the emotion? Quick, think.
The emotion.
Okay, what was the emotion?
Surprise.
Okay, what was the thought?
What's wrong with you?
Okay. So do you think that the thought had come first or the emotion had come first?
The emotion.
Okay, so you're going to stay with the emotion? That's cool. And I'm actually going to pick my pen back up again.
I was going to pick it up.
Because I don't want to leave it down there. So let's work with the emotion then. So what we've got is we've got a situation where you are at work. It's just after PT. It's in the morning. She's handed you a lesson plan. And she says, I want you to go and teach your 12 soldiers how to prepare trucks for a field trip. And she knows the situation that you've been in and the experience that you have about presenting, and she's handed this to you. What's your emotions?
Immediately I just felt sick. I was going to, felt like the pit of my stomach. So, but emotion was fear, I guess. First and foremost, that was one of my strongest emotions. And then the next emotion was anger at her for not listening, not hearing what I had said.
Yeah.
Obviously, with falling in that is like apprehension and
apprehension. You talked a little bit about, you started to say it was the pit of your stomach. So what does that feel like?
Like my stomach's just going to drop out, that I'm going to be sick, or it's like having stage fright and seeing the spotlight on you, and not knowing the routine that you're meant to be doing.
Yeah. So is it warm, cold?
Cold.
Cold.
I felt like started to feel clammy, started to get shakes. But then, so I had that, and then once, because that was, first of all, and then secondly, it started to clench my fist because I was so angry.
Okay. What about your heart rate?
Oh, definitely. Felt like it was jumping out of my chest.
Yeah. You sweating?
A little bit, yeah. Definitely, I can notice it in my palms.
Yeah. Okay. Any headaches?
I get them afterwards because I know that I clench my teeth when I'm really angry. It always feels like when I have a run-in with her, afterwards I feel like I've run a marathon.
Yeah.
I just feel exhausted.
Yeah. So do your muscles feel fatigued? Yeah. So not only are we clenching the jaw, we're also clenching all the muscles and everything as well. Okay. What about your vision, hearing, mouth, smell, anything with your senses?
After she had said that, I couldn't hear anything else of what she was saying. I had focused in on what she was asking me to do, and then she was rattling on about something else, and I just didn't take it in at all. I was
Yeah.
just focusing on visualising myself in that situation, and all the thoughts and all the emotions that come with being in that situation just overwhelmed me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We've got a fair, decent list there, haven't we? Yeah. Okay. Are we still having any other emotions as we're talking about this? Is there anything else that's coming to mind besides being sick, fear, anger, apprehension? You said this rage.
Yeah.
I might just put that up. We'll just see where that takes us. Okay. Okay.
The rage is because I've told her again and again, and you know, she just refuses that, because I refuse to tell her about what's happened. You know, she knows that something has happened,
Yeah.
but she keeps digging me for more information, and I just don't think it's her place to know that.
Yeah.
So I think that she manipulates that, and is using this type of punishment as a way of, you know, finding out what's going on. I'm not going to tell her.
Yeah.
So that's why I've got that rage there, because she's just got no sense of, she doesn't treat people like they're humans.
Yeah.
You know, and, she sees how distressed I get when I'm put into positions of being around other people.
Yeah. Okay. And is this the pressure that she's putting on you, is this around the assault and the story around the assault as well? Yeah. Okay, so she's trying to gather information from you about all of that.
And the thing is, every time I have a run-in with her, it triggers nightmares for me. You know, that night I went home and I just had nightmare after nightmare. And so it's not just after, you know, the face-to-face confrontation with her. Every time there's a big confrontation with her, it always triggers nightmares for me about the assault and not being in control and being unsafe.
Okay.
So I just, even though it was a 20-minute meeting or whatever with her, this, you know, all the other stuff went on and lasted for like 3 or 4 days. You know, I didn't actually settle down until Monday. You know, it was all over the weekend. Was still really upset, worrying about going to work on Monday, and what else she had planned for me. So, and every day after that, on the Friday again, worried about what I was going to walk into. Is she going to do something else? Is she going to try and set me up again? And
okay, let's just hold on to that. I'm going to bring it back to the situation, because what we're doing is this has happened in an instant. You know, how long do you think it would have taken? Maybe a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. What we're trying to do is we're trying to slow that minute down. Okay. So let's come back to the situation where after PT, it's in the morning, you've gone into work. Your sergeant's handed you the lesson plan to deliver to your 12 soldiers. The plan is on preparation of the trucks to go out onto field. And you've just got these emotions. You're feeling sick, you're fearful, you're anger, apprehensive. You've got this rage happening inside you so much that it's affecting the pit of your stomach, and that you just absolutely want to just puke all over the place. You're going cold and clammy in your palms, you're getting the shakes, you're clenching your fists, your teeth, your muscles, your heart rate's going up, your hearing's becoming a little bit compromised, and when it's all coming down, you're just left absolutely exhausted. Throughout that process, what are you thinking? What's happening?
I don't know. One of the biggest things I think is, how dare you?
Good. Keep going.
I always feel like she's standing over me. That there's some of that physical intimidation, but she's taller than I am. And that's something that I'm always aware of. I always feel very intimidated in that space, as though I'm being threatened.
Yeah. What else are you thinking? Some of the other things I picked up on them was, she's not listening to me, you know. And I've told her again and again about how I feel about this. What else?
She's a very much by the book type of sergeant. She doesn't even with the other corporals, she doesn't actually take into account these are human beings with real life issues. If you can't do something, then you immediately get penalised regardless of what the situation is. You know, I've seen it happen to some of the other corporals that I've worked with. You know, someone's wife was having problems with their pregnancy, and they were wanting to go and go to an appointment, and you know, she was just so completely unempathetic towards that. So I get really angry that someone that has such poor people skills is in charge of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever have that thought of going, bad sergeant, bitch?
I call her the C all the time. Yeah.
Okay. We can still put these things down. These are your thoughts. Okay? They're no one else's. These belong to you. Okay? Sorry, I was drifting there then. Okay, so let's just have a look at these, because anger's come up a couple of times. And the one thing that we know as psychologists about anger is that anger has to be directed towards someone, something, somewhere. In this situation, who are you angry at?
Her.
Okay. Does it always stay at her, your anger?
Sometimes it's at myself, because before the assault, I was a really outgoing person. I loved, you know, being centre of attention. I was very confident giving lesson plans. Before the assault, I saw myself having a really strong career in defence, and but now I can't do an aspect of my job that is about leadership. So obviously I'm not going to get promoted if I can't lead my men.
Yeah.
So some of that anger is at myself because I know that I'm failing.
Yeah. You also talked about nightmares. Are your nightmares angry as well?
No, they're about fear.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Okay. Normally when we've got a client that's there and they're angry and they're fearful and they're guilty, you're seeing a lot more behaviours. Jerry's just playing a role for me. But what we're doing is, when I go through this, I then get the client to tap into, you're talking about anger and you're talking about an episode that happened 4 days ago. But you're angry now. Why are you angry? The period is gone. What's happening now? So then we delve into all of those extra thoughts. So like Jerry had started to talk about, when I go to work, I'm having these thoughts, you know, is she there? What is she going to say today? What's going to happen today? All of that kind of stuff. So then we come around to the idea of, let's look at the thoughts that we have, because the only thing that's keeping this anger going are these things here. Okay? Because this event, it's over. It was over and done with 4 days ago. So then when we come back to that, we'll go, okay, so let's have a look at the thoughts. I actually see a little bit of a common theme in all of these. So I'm going to point out the common theme, and you let me know if I'm on the right or the wrong track. Okay? So you have to tell me. She's not listening to me, and she should. I've told her again and again, and I shouldn't have to tell her again. How dare you? You should treat me with some respect. She's always standing over me, and she really shouldn't be doing that. She doesn't have to. I feel like I'm being threatened, but I shouldn't feel like I'm being threatened. She's got poor people skills. How the hell did she make it as a sergeant? She shouldn't be a sergeant. Am I heading somewhere in the right direction? Okay. What did you hear as a common word in all of that? Should. Yeah. Should is one of those demands that we make. Okay? So as a demand, we have 3 areas where we make demands. One of those is we make the demand on the world as a whole. And the demand is that Everyone should be the same. Everyone should be happy. There should not be no war. There should be world peace. All that kind of stuff. The other one is we make demands on those that are around us. And those demands are everyone should be treated, pay attention to each other's needs. And the alternative is she should know how I like my dinner. She should know that when I come home I want to have, my slippers ready. Okay? And then we make the demand on ourselves, the final one. And that demand is the most demanding one of them all. Especially when you're a parent, because you're going, well, I should be a perfect parent and I should have the house clean and I should be able to work full time and I should be able to have the family all happy. Okay? So these are the errors that we make on ourselves. So what we're going to do is we've identified these things, and we've probably identified a little bit of them in your nightmares. For today's session, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some exercises to do before you come back for your next session in 1 week's time. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how do we restructure these thoughts. Because like I said, we talked about this episode happening 4 days ago, but yet that rage and anger is still there. So what we've got to do is we've got to get rid of these, to get rid of that, to forget that. Does that sound okay? Okay. We'll stop there. Does that make sense? I can drag that out for a full hour.
You need a bigger whiteboard.
Yeah. I can drag that out for a full hour where I'll actually, where I'll actually go into some depth about the anger, What does it look like? What does it feel like? Where do you feel it the most? Is it hot or cold? And really get them to describe it, because language is really bloody important to understand of what a person is feeling, because no person's anger is exactly the same. Yeah. So Jerry and I talk about our angers, and I go into great detail about how I would beat the crap out of someone. Yep. Jerry just does all the stuff that's all very sneaky. So then I would go into a session about the nightmares, and I would be talking about restructuring the nightmares. So when I'd spend a whole session where I'd say, okay, well, tell me about the nightmare, what had happened. And then I'd say, okay, well, this is the whole story of the nightmare. Let's take this horrible part out and let's replace it with another story. So we'd start the story off and then we'd end it with something different. To give you an example, I had a client that had been a part of a bank robbery, and the idea was that she continually saw the offender in her nightmares, and it was the same thing. The gun would come out, but she would be shot instead of, handing the money and all that kind of stuff over. And so what we did was we took that part out and we replaced it with him slipping over on a banana peel. And then that we made sure that that would actually change over and over again, so that the memory was never about the incident. It was just about changing the emotion of it. So, yeah. Okay. So that's what I'll do a whole other session on that. We would have to go over something like this again, maybe in about a month or 2 time, because there'll be a new situation. There'll be a new event that will present itself, and she'll have forgotten how to learn to restructure her thoughts. She'll have forgotten that the thoughts will come first before the emotion. Yeah. But did you notice that when she would say, I'm being threatened, and I'd say, good, keep going, stay with that. And I'd reiterate the event, because what I want them to do is they're sitting in that chair, I want them to re-feel that story, but in this safe, comfortable environment with no one actually watching them. So, how did you feel?
I like lovely.
Yeah. Any questions?
No, sweet.
I can see why I blow out my sessions.
Yeah.
Because not only do I, I go into each of the emotions, and then when, where have you felt this emotion before? So big, I've got another event, and then I've got to get through, what does this emotion feel like or look like? And then I've got several emotions, thinking that I had to cover one event at a time.
Yeah.
But you can't.
Yeah.
If you're just dealing with one emotion, that can...
If you're dealing, you either deal with an event or you deal with an emotion. So you can't work on the two levels.
But if you say, when have you felt this emotion before, they'll go back to a different event.
Yeah.
So that's how you end up with two events.
Okay, well, so you're looking at the events, you're not looking at the emotion.
Right.
So
I should be...
This is looking at the event. See how there's only one of it? So there's many emotions?
Yeah.
Okay, if I was looking at the emotions only, there would be one emotion on this side with many different thoughts, with the many different events from those thoughts as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Because if we worked on the assault, and that would probably be the one thing that I'd work on somewhere with this client, I'd be going through the emotions of that assault, and I'd be saying, so, one of those emotions might be fear. Where have you felt afraid like this before? Have you ever experienced that type of fear? And then the idea is that you're taking it back over time, and the only reason why you do that is because you, bless you, because you need to identify where that emotion has come from originally. And more often than not, that's anxiety that you've got to look at. Okay, anxiety is the only one where you've got to look back over history. Okay. Okay. So, with a situation, with a model like this, one event, many emotions, many thoughts.
You're tying everything up in 1 hour.
Not one.
Yeah.
It was blown out.
It blew out. That.
Yeah. So just one event, many emotions, many thoughts, but you're just concentrating on one emotion, one of the significant ones, which is your anger and your fear. Okay? But in 1 hour, you're only looking at the one emotion.
Or one event.
Or one event.
So how do you distinguish what's more important? To talk about the event?
If you're going to start with the event, stick with the one. If you're going to start with the emotion, stick with the one. Okay? Jerry started to go on about other experiences, and you heard me say, let's come back to this event. And I said, how long did this event go for? Went for maybe a minute. Okay, so what we're doing is we're just trying to draw that 1 minute out and have a look at it in detail. Okay, but and clients will do that. They'll go off on their own little tangents. The idea is to bring them back and to remind them that we're working through this situation. Okay, or else they will dictate the session, and you could be there for 5-6 hours. Until they're completely exhausted, and you're just going, I don't even know what my own name is.
I kind of feel like that after that session.
Yeah.
I don't
and
know that yesterday.
It was pretty draining.
Yeah. And it is a learning process, and it takes a lot of practice to learn.
Well, I don't think I did any harm.
No.
Just created more work for yourself.
I just created a lot of work for
Self-harm.
myself. I did stuff.
For the clinician. Okay. So you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. You okay with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
She does love
Yeah,
you,
she can
doesn't
do
she? She's
CBT
looking
on
at
you.
you, adoring her.